Right, welcome back to KTN News Center. Now, let's talk about matters employability and matters education. So are young people, actually graduates, ready for the job market? Have they been trained for the job market? You know that so many employers have raised concern about the sort of education that's being given at the institution of higher learning because they claim that majority of them are not ready for the job market. So, are you ready to be employed immediately after you graduate, or can you be employed while still in school? That is a discussion I'd like us to have this morning with the Daystar University student president, that is Alois Laven Otieno, who's seated on my immediate left, Karibu Sana, and Professor Njenga Munene, who's the Vice Chancellor of Zetech University, who's also a scholar. And let me begin with you, Prof. A lot of employers saying that a good number of graduates are not ready for the job market.
I think that may be true or not true, depending on how the training is done.
Okay.
In our university, for example, one of the things we do is that we emphasize hands-on training through industry university collaborations. So all students who go through Zetech University must have attachments, must be exposed to the job market, regardless of the course they are doing. So there are many, many things that need to be done to produce graduates who are ready for the market. And one of them is industry university linkages, which we are very, very strong in. The other thing we also do is training them on entrepreneurship, so that it is a requirement that all students who go through Zetech University must be trained in entrepreneurship. So
we're talking about internship for students.
Yes.
And Alois, I don't know whether you can agree with me or not. Even getting that internship for a graduate looks like looking for a job.
That's true.
You know, and it's become such a hassle. And you can hear young people saying, for you to get internship at that place, you need to know someone, or for you to get internship at that place, you need to pay someone.
It's actually very true. I've personally gone through that experience. After I finished my diploma course, for example, I was looking for an internship, and it actually took connections for me to actually get that, despite me having very good academic standing and academic grades from the university. But one thing I'm happy about hearing from the prof, and I hope other universities can actually emulate this, is promoting entrepreneurship. I think that is going to be how we change this narrative. Yes.
Okay, so Prof, young people, we're telling them you don't have to wait to graduate for you to get employment. You can actually be self-employed while still in university. How workable is that?
One of the things I would like to say, Madam Brenda, is that students must be conscious about what is work experience. Because one of the challenges we have is that our students sometimes become choosy. So if they want to do a job, an attachment, they want to come to KTN, or they want to go to Safaricom, or they want to go to big enterprises, where there are very many opportunities where they can give either free services, or where they can be exposed to real life experiences simply by even volunteering their services. And one of the things I would like to say is this: universities have a role, and I want to echo this. Universities have a role to create a lot of industry linkages with enterprises that do the things that you are training the students for. For example, for us, we associate very closely with the SAMCHI group of companies, which deal with the hotels, they deal with the telecommunications, they deal with ICT, and we also deal with other companies like Huawei. We deal with other companies like Tarrants. We deal with Kenya National Chamber of Commerce. We deal with other groups like Spinners.
So that you can link your students with this company?
We link the students. Right now, I have a very huge number of students who are attached to SAMCHI, who are doing ICT.
But Prof, when talking about linking students with different companies, you know, But I mean, it's not like all this company can accommodate all the students because it's not just your university. There's several universities in Kenya. We have Nairobi University, we have Daystar, we have Moi, we have JKUAT, we have ZTEC. All these companies are linked even to some of the companies you're mentioning, so they cannot like absorb all students.
They can't absorb all the students. But what happens is that you get a batch here, you get another batch there, and what happens is that even ourselves, even universities, some of our students get attached to other universities. For example, there are students of ours who go to attachment in University of Nairobi, or go to JKUAT for attachment, or go to any other university. There are no hard ups in terms of opportunities.
All right.
The only problem is that in many cases, students are looking for either paid up internships or they want big institutions. One of the things I want to encourage the youth, Brenda, is can they avoid being over-choosy?
Can they avoid being over-choosy?
Over-choosy.
It reminds me of that song that says, usichague kazi. Kazi ni kazi.
Kazi ni
How
kazi.
true is that?
Well, I'd like to disagree with the prof a little bit. I don't think it's a bad thing being choosy. Actually, I think it's very ambitious for one, for example, to want to work for KTN straight out of university. That gives a student the drive and the ambition to work so hard that KTN absorbs them after that. I'll also go to universities. To be honest, I don't think universities are doing enough to be able to settle this problem of unemployment. The truth is, universities are actually depending. You can hear all these partnerships as the prof is talking about. But they're depending on these companies to actually dictate what kind of employment and what kind of jobs are available. It should actually be, if you look at developed nations, it's actually universities that are advising companies on what kind of positions they need to create.
And to actually send for them
exactly, so that they can actually accommodate most of the students that are coming out of these universities. Case in point is how the digital world is taking over right now. If we had universities actually advising companies that in the next 10 years, everything is going to be digital. So we're going to teach digital courses and we want you to absorb the students after. I think the narrative would be very different right now.
And you know, Prof has mentioned something really interesting that, you know, young people, as you're looking for internship or employment, it's not a must you look for a paying job. You can even volunteer, you know, as you're looking for that job. And it's something that also the President Uhuru Kenyatta has been talking about, you know, being self-employed as you're looking for that job. And the government, you also know, has, you know, started that internship program.
That's very true. However, the problem is with the education system. The thing is, most of Kenyan graduates right now have been trained to look for employment rather than create employment. So I think that has led to the crisis that we have here. But I think we should start training students to be job creators rather than job seekers. And that's one thing that makes me actually support the competency-based program, because I believe this will kind of help. It's more practical.
Okay. Yeah. And Prof, I mean, Alice brings in a very, you know, crucial debate over here. Universities need to train, you know, graduates, or rather, you know, students to actually be self-employed, not just, you know, we are training you to go get the job out there.
Exactly. He's very, very correct. And one of the things that most universities are doing, and one of us, for us, we are doing this. We are reviewing curriculum to engage and put the issue of entrepreneurship as a core part so that students are able to create jobs. We are also requesting our students to write proposals on possible businesses and possible things that they can do, projects that they can actually actualize to become real businesses. And they are going through this with our staff so that we know whether this student is ready or not ready. And we want to encourage all the students also to go for things like we are calling a compulsory community service, so that you are exposed to real issues. For example, when you go to your community, what problem are they having? What can you solve? How can you help to resolve the issues? Because essentially, Brenda, jobs don't come from the air. Jobs are created by the services we give people. Jobs are created by the goods you supply to people.
But when you talk about, jobs don't just come from the air, they're created.
Yeah.
And when take, for example, the Standard newspaper, look at the job vacancies that are there for different companies.
Yes.
And what you'll see are 15 years experience, 5 years experience, and the sort of qualifications you're seeing there, even a graduate can just look at that job application and say, he meets Sifiki level, let me just look for something else.
I think on this one, Brenda, I think I would want to encourage the industry. The issue of punishing students because of experience, I think is not fair. The question is competence, and 2, whether the person is willing to learn. Because at the end of the day, there was a first day myself when I was a tutorial fellow, when I would fumble in class, when I was not sure whether I was communicating to my students. And that, my experience have grown to where I am because I was given a chance by people who believed in me. So I think it's for the employers, they need to give graduates an opportunity. If they have the right attitude, they have the right base skills, then the rest of it they will learn.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. And Alois, your story is very interesting because you started working while in school, and you're doing a number of projects, and interestingly, you've employed even young people.
That's true.
Talk to us about it.
So while immediately after I became student president, I helped one of the organizations to get a partnership with Daystar University, and them seeing my skills, being able to negotiate for a deal that quote unquote is so big. They actually reached out to me and told me, okay, we want you to work for us. We want you to get us more and more partnerships with other universities.
What sort of work are we talking about over here?
We're talking about student accommodation. So this is quite to student residences where I consult from time to time regarding student issues. Aside from that, I started together with the co-founder a foundation called Vijana Mkenya Africa, where we do peer mentorship and we do tree planting activities. Aside from that, though, now I started a consultancy company that deals in digital marketing.
All that you started while still in school?
While still in school. So the digital marketing company has about 5 employees now, students of Daystar University who have taken in.
Okay, so as we're speaking, are you still a student?
I am still.
You're still
I'm
a
in
student.
my final year.
You're in your final. In fact, I just needed a views to get that you're still a student. You're in your final year.
Yes.
And what course are you taking?
I'm taking public relations.
Public relations.
Yes.
So you're a student. You're an employer.
Yes.
And Prof, you're talking about a student who's kindly an employer.
Yeah. It's not. That's what I'm saying. When you say, for example, that there are no jobs, this gentleman is a very good example of what can be done and what can be achieved. We have students in our place, in our university, who are doing very, very thriving businesses. Actually, I was accompanied by one today, this morning, who is an entrepreneur. She's in media, but she's already doing business that is helping support her in her studies. So the issue is, first, students need to be creative. 2, innovations. And let me talk a little bit about innovations. For example, one of our students, called Anthony Modongo, discovered or innovated a cane which can help blind people navigate very easily just through sound, because it picks objects and is able to detect when there are obstructions. Now, for that, he has received funding to continue working on the improvement. So he's engaged positively. We have another student who have come up with an application which is already selling to schools software for managing schools. And they are still students. So the issue is, we should not, in my view, say that there are no jobs.
You should not wait for the white-collar jobs.
No, make them because they are available.
Okay.
And I think one of the things I would like to say is that students have the greatest opportunity, because unlike us who had to go to the library to look for knowledge, and sometimes you go for old periodicals, today the internet is awash with information that is very useful.
All right.
Anybody, anywhere at where you are seated, with your phone, you can navigate everything.
Okay, and Alois, you know, why didn't you wait to graduate and then look for employment? Why did you just decide, I need to be an employer? Because young people nowadays are waiting for, white-collar jobs, quick money, get rich so fast, and you're living that life.
I think, like the prof says, it's stepping out of your comfort zone. For me, I'm one person who has never been comfortable with my current situation. I always want and aspire to get better. So I think that's one way to look at it. But the main problem, though, is that most people my age, my generation, actually lack mentors, people who can guide them and tell them, okay, you don't have to look for a job. I've spotted this in you. Why don't you try this instead of getting a job? So actually, my foundation, that's one of the things that I'm looking at, peer mentorship, to be able to talk to young people and tell them, okay, university, go get your education, but out of that education, what is it that you're really good at? And while you're in school, you can actually do something that can help you maintain or live a better life than you're already living.
All right. And Prof, Alois is talking about having mentors just to walk with you through that journey of academics and employment. But as much as we're talking about mentors, some of our parents, when growing up, and it's actually happening right now, they force you to do a certain course that you don't feel like. So you'll end up studying, but once you graduate, so many people are actually employed doing jobs that they did not study for. Some have decided, let me change my course. Some have decided, let me open a company of, something I've not studied for.
I think Brenda, to me, is a very big mistake to force your child to do what they don't like. Because first and foremost, remember that when you work, you have to have an inner drive. It has to come from you. For you to be in the media, there has to be something that you like about what you do. Now, when you force a child to do what they don't do, they only burden this person for life. You give them life stress. So my view is that parents must encourage children to do what they want and support them to achieve. It does not mean that they should not help them make a choice. But don't force children. I have seen, by the way, what is raising is a fact. I have seen students study engineering up to 4th year and actually quit.
Then they quit.
I have seen students do medicine and quit. So the issue, because the father is a doctor or the mother is an engineer.
So you want your child
so you want somebody who can inherit your practice.
Yeah.
So that may be good if it's acceptable. But I think each one of us is born with a different personality. And there is no need of forcing children to be you. They can never be you. They are your children, but they are not you. So the issue is we must encourage children to do what they like best so that we guide them to become the best that they can be. Because if all of us became engineers,
where the doctors or teachers come from?
I wonder where the teachers would come from and where Brenda would come from. Because everybody has become an engineer.
Yeah, and Alois, Prof is saying something really interesting. Like, parents should let their children do what they love.
Yeah.
Because, and the saddest thing, Alois, is, young people, we tend to look at, okay, I want to do this course because of the money that you get at the end of the pay. So many people want to be doctors, pilots, so many people want to be engineers. But when you ask a young person, would you want to be a teacher? No. Would you want to be, Django person, these technical courses? No. People just mention the big courses because they look at money at the end of it.
That's true, and it's interesting. We were having a similar conversation with Prof before the show, and we were talking about overnight success and the impact. Well, the truth is that's what social media has done to us. Social media shows us the good side of things, but never the negative. No one wants to post the negative side of things, the struggle that comes with it. So I think that's definitely a problem, and again, I bring the problem back to mentorship. We don't have enough mentors as a generation for us to be able to kind of have that guidance. And the big problem with this is that there's not enough mentors, simply because 70% of generation is under 35, 50% is 19 years and under. So I think it's also us as young people who've taken steps like myself to go over and above and decide to mentor fellow young people on how to go about it. And that's a challenge I'm choosing to take.
That's a challenge you're choosing to take. And Prof begs the question, is there a need to review our institution of higher learning academics to be more practical, the way the government is doing now with the lower, education?
I want to say this. Let me first of all comment about mentorship. Because one of the things I've seen, mentorship requires two people, the mentor and the mentee. One of the things that we are having as a very serious challenge is sometimes there may be no mentors, but sometimes the mentees are also not responsive, and they are not also willing to be mentored. So I would want to say this. If a young person thinks that he requires the support of an older person, I have never seen a situation myself where a young person has approached a senior person and requested to be guided, and they were turned down. I think proactively the young people must go out. And I'm saying this because I've seen people who have actually gone to the highest offices and highest people in the institutions seeking for advice, and they have received very sound advice, where they have sought guidance and they have been given guidance. So I think the issue is the young must also be willing to learn, because one of the challenges that we're also having, the stardom feeling, the culture of wanting to be the star in...
you have it all.
We have it all.
You live in that big house, you drive that good car.
Posing next to a big Porsche and any other car in a flat in Dubai becomes an in thing. And the question is it possible to become rich overnight? Maybe in the betting world. But in the real world,
you have to struggle.
You struggle and you work your way up. I'm sure you haven't just got here.
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. And that's why, you know, Prof was asking you, and I'm still asking you right now, is there a need to review the curriculum, the institutions of higher learning curriculum? Because, you know, the students who've actually made universities to be a place of just getting papers, you know, just adding papers on top of what you have. So I have a certificate, let me add a diploma, let me add a degree. And hence we've seen cases whereby some students actually using shrewd means to get, you know, to graduate with first-class honors, second-class honors.
I think one of the things, Brenda, which is a fact, is that all universities, as a requirement by a Commission for University Education, must review their curriculums every 5 years. It's a law, it's a requirement. And even before Q came in, it was still being done. It is necessary that curriculums are looked into so that they become current with the current realities. So that if there are things that need to be added or things that need to be removed, they are removed.
Okay.
And that is done ritually. The issue of competent-based learning, I think that is a move in the right direction. But I want to add something here about CBC. And what I'm going to say is something I think need a little more reflection. When we talk about CBC and say that we want to train a child how to paint, I want to go a step backwards and see how is CBC done in Japan. And CBC in Japan starts with the child knowing how to make the dye, which is going to use for painting. The CBC in Japan trains a child how to make paper before he's able to make a manila. A child is taught that paper comes from all plant materials and can come from grass, can come from trees, so you don't have to cut trees. You can use maize stalk to make paper. A child in Japan is taught how to make soap, not to use soap.
So the thing is to train.
So the question is, we must train the trainer to begin with what comes first.
Okay.
Is it the paper or is it the plant?
Okay.
You start with the plant.
All right.
So that the CBC now develops a completeness in the way it is being handled.
All right.
Yes.
All right. And Alois, in a minute as we wind up, your message to the young people, because you are an employee right now, you're a student.
Yes.
Yeah, your message as we wind up.
Yeah. So whenever I'm asked that question, the one thing I say is, for me, I focus on leadership, and I try to get as many young leaders out there. So it's tell young people to take every leadership opportunity that comes their way. That's the only way we're going to change this nation and the continent. The United States of America went through such a period where the majority of the population were young people, and that's how America became America.
Okay.
So I'd like a situation where we reflect later and say Kenya became Kenya because of the
young
current
people.